All right, you guys, you know what time it is. Welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Online Prosperity Show. And you know, this is the number one place where you come if you want to stop guessing and actually start understanding the real strategies, the stories, and the systems behind people who are actually solving problems that matter. I'm your host, Prosper Taruvinga. Today's episode is for anyone who's ever looked at a teenager and thought, why does it feel like I'm speaking, but nobody's hearing me? And I'm talking to you, the parent, the mom, the dad, the aunt, the granddad, anybody who has a teenager that answers to them, and you especially want them to become a well-meaning and well-regulated adult. Yeah, because here's the truth. I mean, raising teenagers in today's digital world isn't just parenting, it's navigating the psychology, the biology, the emotional survival all at once. And especially if you're in Australia, some of them have been banned, but some of them have found ways around all of these things. So today, our guest is going to be helping us navigate all of that so that we actually understand how, as she says, to become the biological pacemakers. So today's guest just doesn't talk about it. She's actually lived it, she studied it, and she's actually rebuilt the way we understand our teenagers. So make sure you subscribe, because this is the kind of episode that you would want to revisit when things get real at home. And I already know if you've got teens or you know somebody who does, you're going to want to send this episode to them before you've even finished. So make sure you are subscribed to the Online Prosperity Show. Now, today's conversation is really, really, really near and dear to my heart, because we're going to unpack something most people don't actually realize, okay? It's not that teenagers are difficult, and it's not that, the way they are being brought up is the right way or not the right way, but we're going to find the optimum way that actually works for you. And today I've brought in the child wrangler herself, or should we say the teen wrangler herself, Nural. Nural, how are you doing?
I'm great, thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Absolutely. Well, today we're going to be lifting heavy things and heavy teens and anything else in between, right? So I can't wait to jump into this particular episode. And for those that are tuning in for the very first time, Nural has actually seen this from the front lines, 20 years inside the school system, watching how it actually works, the very place where teenagers are manufactured. And she's actually seen the ups and downs of everything else. So today we're going to be talking about why good kids are silently struggling, and what parents are actually doing that's actually pushing these teens away, and also how to become what Nural calls that biological pacemaker your teen is actually looking for. So I can't wait to see what you will learn from this. But if you've got a teen in your household, or if you know of one, I want you to drop in the comments. Are you guys connected or disconnected? Just put one of those two words in the comments there, so that we have an understanding of the people that we're dealing with in this particular episode. Now, Nural, I could go on and talk about things I'm not even qualified to talk about. Walk us through what a typical day looks like for you inside the school system. That parents don't get to see, and you get to experience, in these 20 years that you've been a teacher?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. And one, to be honest, that cannot be answered with a blanket response, because every day is different in a school when you're working with kids. And it's been in the high school system for many years. There's always things that are going on, always interruptions to classrooms and timetables and things. But one thing that stays constant is the fact that things always change in schools. They're always trying to grow and improve. And the teenagers that walk through the door have changed over the years. So when I say that things change, well, teenagers have changed as well. And they've changed because the world has changed around them. And the world has definitely become a little bit more digital and a little bit more disconnected from the point of view that most people would assume that kids are more connected, when actually they're not. They're actually feeling more disconnected. So a typical day, just to go back to your original question, a typical day in a school for me is, or for any teacher out there, is actually you're on high alert as soon as you walk through those gates, and then you're just running from class to class and dealing with all your subjects and all the meetings and things like that. So it's very fast paced. There's not a lot of breaks in between that people would think that teachers get during a school day, because we are contracted to basically have a certain amount of, I'll say, minutes, that you might think in hours, of face-to-face teaching time every day. And that's a lot more than what most people realise. And that includes things like yard duties and things like that as well.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for starting us off there. But you've been a teacher for 20 years. What drew you to the profession?
Again, that's a really good question. I'm the first one to actually tell you that I actually never wanted to be a teacher. That was the last thing on my mind when I went through my own education at university. And I'm actually a physicist by trade. So I've got a postgraduate degree in physics. But whilst I was doing that postgrad degree, I actually started teaching first year students at uni as part of a way to earn money. And I was actually enjoying that. And I was actually having a lot of fun teaching the first year bachelor students. And during that time as well, whilst I was finishing off writing my thesis, I actually went and got a job out, we're in Melbourne, Victoria, so you'll know it, but I don't know if all your listeners will. I got a job out at Science Works and Spotswood, which is for those who don't know it, it is basically a science museum, a science education centre. So I had a job out there where I was presenting and writing shows as well out there. And it was during that time where I was waiting for my thesis to get examined and all that I actually decided I'm having a lot of fun doing this. I actually like helping people understand the ways of the world and how things work. So I went and did my graduate diploma in education and started teaching from there. So in essence, you can say that I have actually never left school, because I went through school, went straight to university, and then straight into teaching into a school. So I've kind of transitioned everywhere across the school system. So yeah, I'm again first to say I actually never wanted to teach, but I just kind of fell into it and stayed. I really enjoyed it. So yeah.
Absolutely. See, and thank you so much for opening us up with that. Kids, when they're growing up, they always have some sort of an aspiration. You know, some want to be a doctor, a lawyer, or a nurse, or things of that nature. And was physics, in the family, or where did that inspiration come from?
You know what? I did have an uncle. I do have an uncle who actually studied physics as well, but it was just pure curiosity. I think is what got me into it, was a pure curiosity and a desire to understand why things are the way they are and how they work in the physics, like everything around us. So as far as what got me into it, it was curiosity and trying to figure stuff out as to why things work the way they work. And physics is the only one science that will explain that, I think. So, yeah.
Absolutely. And you've been doing this now, obviously, for 20 years. Has there been any sort of highlights in this journey so far, in what you've been doing?
Teaching. Yeah. For the past 10 years or so, I've been mainly teaching maths. So physics and maths are very closely linked. Can't have one without the other. And yeah, all maths and science is linked. So the highlights of my whole career, geez, that's a really tough one to actually answer, to be honest, because there's always little snippets of things that crop up along the way. And a lot of the highlights are for every teacher out there, though. The one biggest highlight they have, and the reason that they stay, is that feeling of actually helping a kid, those light bulb moments. You know, we talk about it all the time, but when you've been working so hard or so long on a subject and you know your stuff inside out, and you're seeing a kid in class who might be struggling to grasp and understand a concept, and then all of a sudden they get it because of what you're trying to teach them, that's priceless. And
Mm.
that's why we're there. That is literally why we're there. That is what keeps us going, because that you can't buy that.
Oh,
You
absolutely.
cannot buy that feeling at all as to how good it is to actually get and build that relationship with those kids in that classroom.
Absolutely. Now, Nora, I don't know if you've ever heard a bit of my story and how I had a teacher who completely changed the course of my life. So, long story short, when I was 13, we had an exchange student teacher who was actually teaching us mathematics in Zimbabwe. And when she arrived in Zimbabwe, she literally changed my perception of what it meant to travel and work and do what you absolutely love. So as a teenager then, I didn't care anything for school, but I started studying and learning as much as I could. And when she was leaving, going back, coming back to Australia, she, in true Aussie fashion, waved goodbye to the other kids and said, if any of you kids are ever going to be in Australia, you should come around and have a cuppa. So to the other kids that were in the class, it was just a goodbye message, but that became a not star for me. So I
Oh,
then made it to Australia, and I also went around and thanked her when I found her. And
oh wow.
so it's the work that you guys do that actually makes a whole world of difference, for the kids that you're working with. And I concur with that. So thank you so much for the work that you're doing there, Nara.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, well, that's a lovely. She would have been absolutely over the moon when you showed up on her doorstep or reached out to get in contact with her. Yeah, I can imagine
Absolutely.
how happy she would have felt. Yeah.
Absolutely. And we actually documented the whole process. It was actually televised on Channel 9. So
Oh, wow.
it
Yep.
really became a highlight for her career. So you never know, the work that you do, there's a lot of people just because of you will never give up. So yeah, I can see what it is that you're doing. So you seen it all, like you said, you've never left school, and you say that obviously you've been in and around students and things like that, but I noticed in some of your work you say there's even good kids at school that are flatlining. What does that actually look like in real life?
Yeah. So what that actually looks like is there's quite often there's kids inside our classrooms who are quite capable of achieving great things. They know or they have an idea of where they want to go, and they are flatlining. When I refer to that term, they are flatlining. What I mean by that is the system is so overcrowded and it is so jam-packed that we are just literally running from going from one topic to the next, and then on and on and on and on we go, and we're in these confines of the curriculum, and the kids' creativity is almost stifled, where they cannot have the time to explore concepts to its full depth and be able to play around with some of these concepts. And I'm not talking just in maths, I'm talking in other subjects as well. Just because in the back of a teacher's minds, in every lesson is, geez, what day is it? I've got to run this assessment by the end of next week, but I've got to get the kids over the line. I need to teach this. I need to teach this, this, and this before I even think about that. And that's what's going on in the back of every teacher's mind. It is these deadlines, these timestamps that we have on our school calendars because we have a certain amount of curriculum that we must get through within a set time frame. And that is too much. And that's what causes the flatlining and can actually rob some of the joy of learning for some kids.
Absolutely.
That's
So what?
my personal opinion. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Everybody has been through some sort of school, so they would understand what you're saying. But I can understand, why you referred that to as your personal opinion. Is there anything that teachers can do, to actually work with these kids if they discover that there's a lot of overwhelm without any actual learning that's happening?
Yeah, and there is a lot, and this comes down to teachers giving up more of their time to assist those students. So if you can kind of pinpoint a little passion or a little glimmer of something else that needs to be done for a particular kid, then quite often those things are dealt with inside the classroom, but they carry over outside. They might carry over at lunchtimes or email conversations or meetings or things like that. So everything that a teacher does or what a school does is always with the kids' best interests at heart. But that
Mm,
comes at the cost of time.
absolutely. And
That you don't have.
speaking of time, time is money. And, with
Yeah.
that time, they have to be sort of compensated and things of that nature. Just recently at my school, the teachers were on strike,
Yeah.
as a reflection that maybe they were not being compensated that much for their time. Could that be the case that teachers don't feel like even if they tried, they've got nothing to show for it?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So the strikes are, yeah, it's been a long time coming. I think it's been like 13 years since there's been a big teacher strike in Victoria.
Mm.
But yeah, that was definitely on the cards. I think during COVID, a little bit with the amount of work that parents were seeing and the amount of effort that parents were seeing, most teachers were putting towards still helping kids navigate their learning during those lockdowns. But I think slowly slipping down again. So, but definitely time is one major issue for a lot of teachers, and the reason why a lot go on leave or take breaks from the profession is because so much of that time eats into your own family time. So much of that marking comes home. So much of the work planning and the prep comes home during times when you're needed as well for your own family and for your own well-being, to be honest.
Hmm.
So,
You
yeah.
see, I had a newfound respect for teachers during the pandemic when you mentioned, because my living room became a restaurant, it became a boardroom, it became a classroom, it became a laundry, and it just became everything that you could think of that we were doing on that particular table. So much that I actually not contemplated, I actually got our family to walk 10 kilometers just so we can go and see my wife's sister in another suburb, just so that we couldn't just do any of the homeschooling. That was something that I was willing to do just so I couldn't do any ounce of homeschooling.
Yeah.
So hats off again to teachers and the work that they do. But I've got a question for you. These kids are our kids. Whose job is it anyway?
To do what?
All
To
right.
educate?
To
Yeah.
educate, to regulate, to actually put them on the straight and narrow.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I think a lot, you're kind of trying to bait me here, aren't you, a little bit here? Uh, to be honest with you, I think a lot more of that has fallen onto the teachers than has in previous years. And it is a fault of almost society as well. I'm not going to point fingers at anyone, because the best outcomes for any kid in any school comes from when there is a healthy and respectful partnership between the school and home.
Mm.
So I've always had the best outcomes for kids who might have been a little bit troubled or needed more help for whatever reason. The best outcome for those kids have come when I can approach the parents and say, hey, this is what's been going on. Are you aware of it? And can you help me deal with it? And if they answer yes, sure, tell me what I need to do and I'll do it, then that kid is always okay. If the parent answers, I thought that was your job, can you deal with it? I don't have time. I'll do what I can, but no promises. That is really hard. So when you say whose job is it anyway, well, it's all of ours. We should all have a vested interest into what the next generation is. And what I mean by that is we should all have a vested interest in what the next generation how they actually, I can't get my words right on this one. You're going to have to edit this one out.
No, we're right. No, right. I
Teachers,
hear you. It's not an easy
generation.
one there, but
Yeah.
what I wanted to sort of bring us to is the fact that even though, parents just palm all of that work to the teachers, I'm gonna say this because I'm a parent. You're gonna live with these kids for the rest of their lives, and you might as well, have an input in having the people that you want at the end of it all to be at
Yeah.
least regulated and people that you can be around instead of waiting for somebody who's also, like you said, has their own life to live and their own family to take care of in terms of that being the teacher. So obviously the system is broken on both fronts. I mean, obviously you have established that the education system in and of itself is too overwhelming for the brains that we're putting the kids through, but also society has literally let go of themselves in trying to do their part. Now you've come up with a bit of a solution. Walk us through what you've created and what that sort of is designed to do.
Yes, thank you. So I started a podcast. It is on YouTube more, oh, it is on Spotify as well, but it's more so on YouTube where I post more, called Talking Teens Official. And this is a parenting podcast where either I'm speaking with someone like what we're doing here, or I'm running through things that I've seen in the classroom over the past 20 years or so that parents need to be aware of and what they can do to actually help their kids. On the back of that podcast, I started a school community, which is on a platform called School, which is SKOOL. And I started that one after I started my podcast because it is a secure, private place where I'm building a community of parents, of teenagers inside there, and they have direct access to me. And I'm in there every day talking to a lot of parents, offering support, giving advice, giving guidance, and taking their leads on what they need to do. So they're the free things that I supply, and the free things that I offer is obviously my podcast and my free school community. And I also offer one-on-one at the moment, mainly one-on-one in small group settings, parent coaching support as well for parents. So we're talking about kids who have anxiety. I can help you get them back into school and improve their school attendance within 30 days, because I know what to say as well to the schools and what needs to be done to help get them in there. I have a program called From Triggered to Connected, which is a parenting program which is really intensive, and I'll run that over the course of a few months, where you're working really closely with me as well, to have a look at why your kid is setting you off and your reactions to those, and where they're coming from. And then I'm going to give you a roadmap so you can actually pick those reactions apart, and it's all individualized, and be able to build a better relationship with your teenager as they're growing up. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, you want your kid to come home when they're an adult for a Sunday roast, right? You
Mm.
want to have a relationship with them, and you're not going to build that relationship with them, which again comes off my podcast when my tagline is connection over correction. Always. You're not going to build that relationship with them if the first thing they hear or the first thing they see when they walk through the door when they come home from school is you going, how was school? Did you do your homework? Go clean your room. You know what I mean? Like things that we would, as parents, we can say without even thinking, without even realizing we're saying it, is actually driving a wedge. So I've got a plan for you to actually stop those automatic reactions and replace them with new reactions that you can actually use. And then all of a sudden, you're going to find your kids are starting to come to you a little bit more. and talk to you a little bit more about things, because everyone wants a relationship with their kids, but our parents, some of them just do not have the tools because they didn't grow up in that environment themselves. So it's no fault of their own. It's just they just haven't been shown. And my heart bleeds for those parents out there, to be honest, because there's some great teenagers out in the world who just are looking and searching for connection and support with an adult. And wouldn't you want that to be you as a parent, not
Absolutely.
someone else?
Well, it takes a physicist to figure this out, because what you've just done is really look at it from first principles reasoning. All right. Rather than reasoning by analogy, it's their story, it's the school, or it's the parents. You've literally said, don't you want to arrive at a point where you have Sunday roast with your kids and everybody's amicable? And I don't think a lot of people have thought that far ahead, because the way this whole thing is set up is, go to school, go do what you're doing. We meet up at a time when we're supposed to meet up, and nothing else matters. But you also had to go and understand this, not from the teacher perspective, but from what you've mentioned during COVID. You went on and studied mindset, NLP, and things of that nature. How did this then change how you saw parenting? Because this is not pretty much the way a physicist sort of would be thinking. It's either this or that. If this, then that, from my understanding.
Yes, we're an interesting bunch, I think, physicists, that's for sure. But absolutely, during COVID, I thought that there has to be another way. There was so many kids, because I was in a leadership role in the school I was at during the time. And there were so many kids that I was dealing with that I had never had to deal with before in my life for certain things. And a lot of them were struggling, like really struggling, like crying on the phone, like or on meetings, like on Zoom meetings like this. And parents were calling out for help as well. Parents were losing their jobs and all sorts of things were going on. So during that time frame, I finished writing a book that I'd started writing as well, called The Broken World of Education. So that's published and that's out there. But also during that time, I started playing around with different ways to support these kids and these families, and which led me down the path of a little bit of mindset coaching down there as well, and a little bit of NLP, which comes into it. But I would not say that is what all my coaching systems are based on. It was just my thirst for knowledge, and me quenching it was figuring out why are they saying this? Where is this coming from? And just really starting to unpack and chunk down where some of these reactions in some of these families or some of these people, where they might have been coming from in the first place.
You see, people tend to resist changing their viewpoints. Just like in physics, a body in motion stays in motion until
Yeah.
something stops at midway, or things of that nature. So you see, you've I'm channeling my inner Newton here, right? Things like that. But obviously, by you writing this book, you're literally stepping out from the norms of how things are supposed to be. What's been the reception of this book here, The Broken World of Education, that you've written?
The reception's been really good, actually. It became an Amazon bestseller. So
Congratulations.
I'm very proud of that. But to be honest with you, I look at that now and I go, oh my God, that was so long ago. And which really it wasn't. It was probably about 4 years ago. But because I don't know, I'm one of these people where I go, all right, I've done that. I can move on to something else. I don't think that was my calling, and what I was meant to do was to write that book and stop. My calling is actually still to help people. And the people I'm really good at helping are parents and teenagers. That's it. That is where my strengths lie. It is speaking with these kids. I've got two of my own, and speaking with kids at school. Like, I will tell you, I can still move around the community where I am and still run into parents and still run into students, and they don't all run away from me, So they come up and go, "Hey, miss, how you going?" And if anything, I'm the one who's more embarrassed. Like, "Oh my God, I'm here with my kids," like, or "I'm here with my husband, go away," But yeah, so my strengths lie in dealing with teenagers. And if
Mm.
that's what I know, then I want parents to know that I can help you with yours, because I've probably dealt with a lot of issues that you're dealing with right now. I guarantee you, any response I have to you, I've seen or I've dealt with, and I've probably got another kid in mind somewhere down the track that I've already, helped through a similar situation.
Mm.
So nothing is off limits. And I just want to encourage parents out there to break free of any feelings of guilt or shame or being embarrassment in seeking support, because that is a block that is more within you as a parent, and it's got nothing to do with how your kid is behaving. All right, you got to separate the two, and you've
Absolutely.
got to take step and you go, "Hey, I really love my kid, and I know I could be doing better. I don't know how I can do this better. Can you help me?" And that's all that needs to be said.
I love that. I love that. And once you take that away from, because there's something about being a parent, we always want to be right, and we also want to do the right thing, for our kids and things of that nature. And there's no manual for these kids that we have,
Mm.
and
No.
so I think you've just given parents the permission to say, hey, don't be guilty, don't be ashamed, to actually admit that you are going to need help. And I think, obviously, from a physics point of view, it's just like energy. You can never create new energy, it just transforms into another form, right? And things of that nature, similar to energy, information should be exchanged, rather than just creating it from somewhere else. So, like you're saying, you've dealt with it, you've seen a kid, you've maybe seen a family that is going through what you're going through. So nothing is completely new under the sun. So you've got this philosophy of, what is a connection over correction. And I quite like
Yep.
that. What does that really mean in a heated moment with a team?
Yeah, that's a really good question. In a heated moment with your teenager, so what it means is your first response is not to talk. So when your kid might be doing something that aggravates you, and you just feel, you feel yourself drawing in that breath, ready to, and you're tensing up and you're ready to go, "Can you just do what I said?" Things like that. That is not going to help. So the first thing you need to do, the first piece of advice I'll give, is for you to just stop and take a breath. That is your first answer to something. So when I talk about connection over correction, very easily parents fall into the trap of, "I need to quickly fix this problem and I need it fixed now because I've got too many other things I need to do." And it's not a parent's fault. It's just the fault that, you're trying to cook dinner, and your kid's coming in with muddy shoes after soccer practice, walking all over your floor. And then all of a sudden you're looking at, "Oh my God, the carrots are boiling over there. I need to now go clean up that mess." And you just yell at them to go pick up their shoes, get the vacuum, get the mop, whatever it is. All you need to do is just say to them, "Hey, you're going to slow me down here. Dinner's going to be a little bit longer because I have to now clean up the mess you didn't realize you made. Can you help me out? Can you just do that? Or do the carrots? You choose one or the other." And
Mm.
that's it. So when I say connection over correction, what I mean by that is your first response is to correct. But if that is your first response, you are not going to connect. So flipping it the other way as well. So when I say connection over correction, that is you need to be coming from a place of love, support, and understanding, and care and concern, first and foremost, for your kids, instead of looking at your watch and going, "Come on, hurry up, grow up. I can't wait for you to be an adult. So we can get over this." this phase because you won't have any connection.
Most of these things, they just happen by impulse, right? And
Yeah.
half of the time you think you are, yeah, you're correcting that and that's done, but you're literally not connecting. And I like that example of, yes, you've got thoughts on, you're making dinner and they're jumping in with whatever they're coming from wherever they're coming from, and your first response is to just maybe try and correct that. But you want to connect first, and that takes a lot of self-awareness, especially on the parents, for them to be able to stop, look and listen, and then take that breather and connect. Now, what's something that parents are doing right now that's actually damaging connection without realizing it? Because half of the time we might think we are doing the right thing, but
Yeah.
we're not connecting first, like you're saying.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing is quite often parents tend to, and I'm guilty of it too. I'm not going to say I'm perfect at all. Like, I've got a 15-year-old girl who, stormed off on me last night because I said one thing to her that was wrong. So I'm not gonna sit here and go I'm perfect, because I'm not. But the difference is I've got the awareness to go, oh crap, I shouldn't have said that to her. you know, I'll go in and I'll fix that. Most parents probably wouldn't. They would just go, she's just got to deal with it. So where most parents go wrong is that quite often they will react instead of respond to their kids, or they're not fully present to start with when their kid is trying to form a connection with them, or trying to invite them in on something that they found interesting or that is worrying them or that they want to talk about. And the problem with our society nowadays is a lot of parents are so busy working, trying to, get over all their own issues, that they all sometimes forget about that their kids are learning from them while they're growing as well. So the biggest thing that the biggest mistake that parents can make is actually not taking the time to be present for their kids. And I don't mean you need to be present 24/7, but when they walk through that door, and even if you're working from home, or even when you first get home and they say hello or you say hello to them, you've got to shut your laptop screen or put your phone down and put your hands flat and look up and make eye contact with them and say, hey, how are you going? How many times do you see a kid talking to a parent while they're on their phone or on their laptop and they're just going, yep, okay, that's good. Great, thanks, we'll deal with it. So those little signals that humans pick up on, that what you're saying to them is not as important as what they're looking at that point in time.
Wow. And so much of what you've said, I'm just looking. I mean, obviously, if my kids come through, the door is right opposite me there. And if they popping in, I'm saying hi. And I'm just trying to retrace my steps if I haven't been a bit present. But I can see what you're talking about. Everything is so up in the air for parents these days. If you're looking at fuel prices, if you're looking at interest rates and everything else. So they want to be focused on doing the right thing, and the last thing they need is somebody in their ear who obviously they think at that time is not important, but like you say, they are actually watching. So you actually talk about parents becoming a biological pacemaker. Can you just break that down in simple terms? Is that what you just spoke about, or is that yet another level of being becoming the medicine, or so to speak?
Yeah, it is. It does add another layer. I'll be completely honest. So, what I mean by a biological pacemaker is more about the role modeling of emotional intelligence with your kids, and you keeping that system in step and in tune with them a little bit. So, if a kid is anxious, for example, or doesn't want to go to school that day, they could be picking up on anxiety from you about things. So it's about being aware that as a parent, how you are feeling about certain issues or about certain things or worries in your household, whether it is paying the bills. I mean, most big believer that every parent out there is honestly trying to do the best that they can for their kids. Like I'm not going to say that there's parents out there who aren't. I think inherently that is what we all want. We all want the best for our kids, but that can cause you to worry. And it can cause you to worry and have those adult worries, which is paying the bills, having enough time. I've got to run from here, 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 and there, and everywhere. And that energy that comes along with that does get transferred to the kids. And
Mm.
you'll sense it and you'll see it. So when I talk about being a biological pacemaker, it means can you control your energy, if you like, so that your kids are in sync with your calmness and your reactions and what you're doing. So it's being aware of that energy transference, if you like, between a parent and a child. Does that make sense?
Maybe some people would understand it this way. You know how if you show up in front of a horse and you're anxious and you are maybe not in the right state or whatever it is, the horse will sense it, will either jump or do whatever it is and things of that nature. But kids might not necessarily react in that way, but they feel that,
Yes,
okay, something ain't right here. And then their reaction is not only just a response to you. So you literally now have to regulate yourself again so
correct.
that you make the household nice and calm. So what I'm hearing here, Nural, just correct me, is the problem isn't the teenager at all. You know, it's the parents that are trying to lead emotionally without being emotionally regulated themselves.
Correct. Yeah, but the issue is a lot of them don't realize it. They don't know because they think that what they're doing is they're doing the right thing because a lot of the times they were raised in a similar way. And I'm not talking about being a woke parent at all about anything. Just to put that out there, then that term can rub people the wrong way quite a lot. I'm not talking about that at all. I'm talking about just actually being aware of where all of these issues actually are coming from. And it's not always the parent's fault either. And to throw the term loosely out there, it could be a little bit of generational trauma that's just been filtered down the lines that way, that you don't even realize you have. So what I'm going to do is make you realize you do probably have a little bit somewhere, even if big or small, whatever. But I'm going to make you face it
You've done
because you're just,
NLP,
yeah,
right? You've
yeah,
done NLP and you can nil people, and usually NLP constitutes of a pattern break. And I
yeah.
feel like what you're presenting is somewhat of a pattern break because, like it or not, so many of us just go from our own whatever trauma, that we would have been brought up with, whatever was happening in our lives. And then we just go from kindergarten, grade school, high school, university, get married, have these kids, and still struggle without having had that distinction of, wait a minute, now you're an adult who's supposed to be looking after these kids. So from what I'm
Yeah,
hearing, this obviously is just you're not just teaching parenting here, right? You are helping people just rebuild those relationships they thought were sleeping away,
yeah,
first with themselves, and then second to be a good representative of what they want with the kids that they now have. That's a lot
exactly.
of work,
It
Narelle.
is a lot, but it's really important work. And I really, really love it. It's a lot of work. It's worthwhile work. And I think we need more of it. We need more people like me out there doing what I'm doing.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
I think you being a physicist, you are approaching all these conversations with that mindset of asking why, how things work, and actually encouraging that deeper dialogue. Whereas everybody else is just looking at it from a surface level. I'm now a parent. I just send the kids to school, pick them up on their way home. We pick up a
Yep.
roast chicken, and nobody gets hurt. All right.
Which is fine. You'll keep them alive. They'll be healthy. They'll be, whatever. But you're not going to have that depth. You're not going to have that connection. That's
Wow.
all. Yeah.
So teenagers are not just rebellious and difficult. Narelle, and I think that's actually true. They just want to connect.
Yep. Yeah.
And we as parents are, since we haven't connected with ourselves, it's going to be difficult to connect with. So
Yeah.
it's just high school playground, home and away, if I may say
Yeah.
so.
Yeah. Or you're seeing in them what you don't like about yourself, because sometimes they can be a mirror of you and your attitudes or your beliefs, and all of a sudden you're being confronted with that, and you're kind of going, oh, I don't like that. That is me. And that's where it comes from. And you don't want to face that fact either, which is true. It happens. Yeah.
Well, I don't know how big your security detail is, Narelle, after this conversation, because the parents are going to be after you, the teachers are going to be after you. So,
That's okay. I'll be ready. I'm
absolutely.
ready.
Remind us again where people can go to and find that group so that they can actually start learning and figuring out how they can move forward. Yeah.
Yep. So my group on school, which is SKOOL, is called Parenting Teens. So if you just Google or you just type in school.com and then /parenting teens, that's me. You can find me on YouTube on Talking Teens Official, and all links will lead back to that school as well. I am on Instagram under Talking Teens Official as well. So Talking Teens Official on school and YouTube and Instagram, and you'll find me. You'll
Mm,
find it. Don't worry, it's on the internet.
absolutely. Now, Narelle, you're physics person here. I think what you're just doing is, what do they call it? Parsimony, is it? Where you're just seeking the simplest explanation, to everything
Yeah.
else. You strip away all the unnecessary complexity just to find the
Yeah,
essential, nitty gritty of what it is that needs to happen. What I heard
yeah,
from you is we need to be regulated in order to regulate the kids.
that's it. Yeah,
Wow.
love it.
Absolutely. Now, I mean, obviously you brought us into your world and now, we want to know more and we want to learn a little bit more. You've got the group. What else are you working on that we can be excited about that you've got going?
Yeah, so my group at the moment in school, as I mentioned before, I have a couple of programs that I'm offering in there. One to overcome anxiety, especially for those kids who are struggling to get to school and are refusing a little bit and digging their heels in at home because they don't want to go. Spent a lot of years working with that one. So I've got a program in there to help parents increase their child's attendance at school within 30 days. And also my From Triggered to Connected program, which is by application because I only want to work with I can't take on too many parents at once because it's so involved from my end. So, From Triggered to Connected program is also running out of my school. I also run regular meetings in my school. I won't say actually meetings is the wrong term. Regular video calls where we're just having a chat in the community, just kind of, a little bit like this, but there's a few more people that's involved. So that happens every week and every fortnight because there's a few in a different time zone in the other side of the world who will pop in. But yeah, so that's the main thing that I'm working on at the moment, and I think that's more than enough for now. But if there is something out there that a parent desperately wants support with, then I would encourage them to get in contact with me via any of those channels and just reach out, and they can book a call and we can have a chat, and we'll be able and we can see whether or not I think I'll be able to help them, and we'll take it from there if there's anything in particular besides what I've mentioned that they need help with.
Absolutely. I'll make sure that all those links are in the show notes so that these parents will actually start creating an emotional climate that their teenagers would love to grow inside of. And now, Nural, I can't thank you enough for the time that you spend with me on the call. I mean, your life story and your experience and what it is that you're doing for these teens is definitely going to make sure that some people will have a happier existence and a safer future, with and being amongst the people that absolutely love them, because they've done the right thing right from the get-go. So thank you so much for the work you're doing.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to come on your show. I really appreciate it. and have a discussion about all of this and what's really important to me as well. So thank you very much for that.
Great stuff. Now, for those that are watching, if today's episode just made you pause a little bit or reflect or even feel a little bit uncomfortable, I know it did, because it did for me in some instances, but obviously it's my show, so I get to choose what I say and what I want to do. But that's a really good thing. And let's see you in the comments there and tell us, what is it that really stuck with you, or what resonated with you, or what rubbed you the wrong way? Oh, it's Nural just not out of touch with reality, because maybe some people have a different feel to it. And I also want to hear it from the teachers as well. How are you facing with the students that are coming your way? And yeah, I want to start this conversation in the comments below, because growth just doesn't happen in comfort. It happens in awareness. And if we can all learn from each other, I think we literally will be raising, a better future and also a better environment for these kids, for them. And what Nural has just shown us today is, obviously the relationship with your teenager isn't broken. It's just waiting for a different approach. So if you're ready to move from being triggered to actually being truly connected, make sure you check out Nural's group. I will be putting all those links in the show notes below, so that you never have to choose between connecting or correcting with your teenagers in the future. I don't know what you're going to do with this information, but until next time, bye for now.